You're listening to the Masonic Light Podcast. Starring Pete Ruggieri, Larry Maris, and Jason Lewis. This podcast is not endorsed by any Grand Lodge, and the ridiculous ramblings of the hosts are their own. So sit back and enjoy some Masonic conversation without pretension. And now, here's your hosts, Pete, Larry, and Jason.
And Jack.
Hey, that's me.
Hey, everybody, welcome. As you can hear, we've already been started. Episode 52.
52.
Episode 52, everybody. So welcome. So we do have a guest today on what we're going to talk about that we can use on the show. We've already covered foreign objects at the ER.
Okay, there you go.
So now that we got that out of our system, we can keep it a
Now that we
more
got that
PG.
out of his system.
He's an EMT. That's how that came up.
Alrighty, so let's just we'll go around the room the way we always do, and we'll introduce yourself and say what you've done Masonically the past couple weeks.
Come to me last, please.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Let Larry
Counterclockwise.
let Larry go first for a
All right,
change.
counterclockwise this week. Larry, you're first.
Okay, what have I done this week? Past week? Oh, gee, not a whole lot. Just pass me by. Goose and gridiron. That's it.
Hey, Larry, how was that committee? How many people showed up?
What committee was that?
Didn't you have some?
petition committee?
Oh,
A beautification
the
committee.
beautification committee. Well, actually, two people showed up. Clint and Tony Gibble. They showed up. Everybody else did not show. I have since found out that one of the guys is in the hospital with a bad heart, which
That didn't stop you.
didn't stop me. No, it didn't. He had some kind of surgery, what they call it, ablation or
Heart
whatever.
ablation.
Yeah,
Ablations.
Appellation. And
Heart appellation.
and something got messed up in there. But anyway, that made me want to resign. Made me want to get rid of it, say the hell with it all.
Excellent.
Except we got two good guys, Tony and Clint Gibble. Let me tell you, these guys are into it. And I wouldn't end it or resign from the committee because these guys really bust their butt to do things for the lodge. And
Absolutely, I agree.
I should just fire the other guys. That's it.
Do it.
You're fired.
All right, and we have a repeat guest because he brought our current guest.
Uber driver.
So Uber driver Ken Hudson, since you're in the room.
Hello.
What have you done Masonically in the past?
Too much. 14 days straight of Masonic crap. Oh. I'm telling you, I am about fed up to my air hole with Masonic stuff. Gee whiz, I'm so tired. Oh my God. Every day there's been something, you know?
That's true.
So we need new members to take over some of the work.
And did you? We got to share some news that,
What's that?
You tentatively agreed that if so elected, that you would be serving as junior deputy Grand Tall Cedar.
Absolutely.
Not.
We thank you very much.
Absolutely.
We're looking forward to that.
Oh, he did.
And I want to give a shout out to TJ Quinn, who was married on Sunday.
And you officiated at that
Yeah,
marriage.
I did.
You were
I
the-
did.
Yes,
I
yes.
did.
You were the presiding minister of that.
it was
Yes.
rough trying to keep my mind on the Bible and not on her. Yeah.
Sorry, TJ.
That's it. Goodbye.
Prayers.
You know, we've nicknamed
So
him
many stereotypes.
the Masonic James Brown.
Or Chuck Berry. Yeah.
There you go.
At least it's not R. Kelly. Jack.
Ouch. I had a great couple of weeks. Let's wait till Jason can draw breath again.
I'm recovering. Don't
There he
worry.
is. Okay. So we voted on the studio at Ephrata Lodge, and that passed.
Insert
as-
drum roll.
as you
Oh,
guys-
too late. Yeah.
So we're going to be moving from Wayne's World's Masonic basement to a proper studio facility at Ephrata Masonic Lodge.
Hey, what's wrong with this basement?
There's nothing wrong with this basement. It's awesome. It's the man-eating monsters upstairs that threaten
So
death to
Oh, they're
all
babies up
people
there.
who comes. Oh, shut up!
They came right into me.
liked
Did they
you.
not?
Went right
I
for
had
my
no
throat.
issues.
Right. It's my karma. I get it, but
Maybe it's
there
'cause you're
are no
old.
man-eating animals
They
at my lodge.
came right at me like I
So
was.
we're gonna
They
have.
came at me too. So
We'll make sure somewhere on this podcast we'll insert a commercial where you can help us raise money for the new studio.
yes, that is going to become a necessary thing for this podcast because we are acquiring some overhead, and we're going to need to be dealing with that. So, in an effort to be real, we're going to be reaching out to our listeners every once in a while to help us out. So, look forward to that because we know you love that stuff. Anyway, the other thing that I got was my son came home from his new job in Florida to be with his friends who were graduating from Penn State Berks in Reading. And he was at one of his friend's house, and he was talking to the friend's father, who is a Mason in Reading. And he said, somehow or another, the idea of Masonic podcasts came up. And he said, oh, yeah, I listened to that Masonic Light podcast.
Those guys are jerks.
And my kid said, what? Are you serious? My father's on the Masonic podcast. And he said, what? Who's that? And he said, well, my dad's Jack. And he said, oh, the straight one. So take that for what you will. But Chaz Miller, we love that you're listening, and tell your friends, and God bless you, and so mote it be. But that's my Masonic week for the day. And now it's time.
Well, we're gonna go to Jason.
Jason.
Yes.
So, stated meeting for Lodge 43. That was cool. Executive meeting for Lancaster Lodge Perfection, work stuff. We had the stated meeting and installation of officers up in the Valley of Harrisburg. So all 4 new presiding officers, and that's pretty much it. We rented out the Lancaster Masonic Center. We don't typically have external rentals, but we have a regular craft show that comes in, and Ken Hudson, hardest working man in Freemasonry, he babysat the building.
You know, if something called a craft show, it should really be Masonic.
True, different kind of craft.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and,
Wiccan?
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, he held the glass up.
Don't drool on him, okay?
Ken's falling asleep over there.
It is like the Elvis Duran show, but funny.
I was just going to say, this is definitely the morning show. I'm enjoying this a lot.
But I conferred for the first degree last Thursday. So last Wednesday was our stated meeting. We had a regular stated meeting, closed down, and then we conferred 2 fellow craft. The next day we came back and did 2 Master Masons, took a break for dinner, and then I conferred the first degree. And it was one of my best first degrees. Pat myself on the back. And I get to a certain point.
Good job.
And thank you. I get to a certain point in the ritual, and I think Jack, I was telling you about this on the phone the next morning, that I just I blanked completely, and you know, it's when somebody's doing a bad job conferring, more people are paying attention, trying to help, and when somebody's doing a really good job, you kind of just, you know,
You zone out.
right.
Yeah.
So I got to a certain paragraph, blah 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 blah, boom, gone. I was like, oh my gosh, what do I have to do at work tomorrow? What am I going to have for breakfast?
Amnesia.
It was just a whole new conversation entered my head, and I look over at the senior warden, and I look at him, and he gives me the shrug and shakes his head.
I don't know.
I
I
look
have no idea where you are right now. Oh my God.
I look over to the senior deacon, who was our actual master, and I look at him, and he like whispers, "Don't look at me," and so I just shrugged my shoulders and said out loud, "Does anybody have the rest of this?" And and then finally, I look over, and the senior deacon, who was our actual master, he tilts his head back, and I can see him running through a paragraph. And then finally, he says, "And then blah 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 blah," and I'm like, oh, "Good." Picked it right back up. And aside from that, it was a great degree. But man, it was just gone. Like,
That was my least favorite part of being senior warden, because when you're senior warden, you're prompting the master. And if the master's doing a really great job, you're just like in the zone, and you just like drift off.
Right.
And you don't have to listen anymore because he's got it. And then all of a sudden he looks at you with these deer in the headlight eyes, and he's waiting for you to give him a line, and you go,
Well, I feel bad because those guys had to like start at the beginning, right? Because you can't just go back a sentence. But other than that, it was good. Good weekend. That was at the wedding that Ken officiated. That was really fun. That's about it.
I had a big weekend. I was down in Wildwood, New Jersey.
Wild time.
Are the beaches open now?
Well, there's no lifeguard yet.
You're not allowed to call them that anymore.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure if they were since the governor's moved on.
Tall Cedars annual convention.
Now, is there a cedar that would actually go to the beach?
Maybe no. There's a lot of old guys, but I mean,
They don't have a wheelchair ramp, do they?
No, they don't have. They have those big buggies though. You know, with the PVC piping. We used them for you a couple years ago, Ken, if I'm not mistaken, to get you out there to see the water.
but it was a really good time, and I'll give a plug later. But you know, if you are in the Tall Cedars, you really should come down. You really ought to come to the convention because there's nothing to do. We just hang out all weekend. It's a
Steve
nice
is
weekend.
blackballed from now on as or a co-host, one or the other.
This is too much fun.
But that's
I gotta say, this is a lot of fun.
That's it for me. All right, Mr. Guest, introduce yourself and tell us what you've been up to.
All right, my name is Steve Henry and Junior. Sorry. And the past 2 weeks, let's say that way, I've really embraced a lot of different things, and through my travels, really, been to Ohio, New Jersey, back to Ohio, Delaware, back to Ohio, and brother Ken and I are very, very, very close friends as well, and our families are very close. And I remember calling him from Westerville, Ohio, saying, I'm in front of this beautiful Grand Lodge, and for the life of me, I can't remember what the name of it is today.
Grand Lodge of Ohio?
It may have been. I'm just there because I'm right outside Columbus. And he says, well, what's it called? I was like, I don't know. It just has these big pillars out front, and there's a name, but it's so damn windy. The trees are blowing over top the name. He's like, well, take a picture. I'm like, oh, yeah, I should do that. Well, I didn't even take a picture. So anyway, but regardless, in my travels, I was surprised to meet many different brother Masons out there in different states, and how open they were and how embracing they were. And one, more recently, last week, sorry, I tapped on the table, Jason. That was my fault.
That's right.
I was
I'll be
tapping
okay.
there. It was a unique conversation. He was getting ready to go in for a gastric bypass, if you will. And we just happened
to call that the Masonic surgery.
And that's okay. He was having a sleeve done, and he was just like, you know, and I've known this person for well over 9 years. Actually, he used to be one of my former college students back when I was still an adjunct professor, teacher, whatever the case was. But anyways, we were talking, and he's like, how life different changing is this? And I was like, well, it's huge. It's a huge difference in life, and a lot of people go through it. And, you know, you'll be fine. I said, it is what it is. But being on a walk through that journey with him, and then again the next day, and even with his family, was pretty amazing because, you know, I've known them, but we haven't been in touch in a long time.
All right. So let's take a quick break, and we'll come back, and we'll talk to our guest, Steve, and some more Masonic Late podcast. And we're back. Jason was looking at me because I thought he was going to bring us back, but we're back. So we are going to interview our guest, Mr. Steve Henry of Lodge 43, and we're going to turn it over to our professional interviewer, Brother Larry Maris.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate that. Steve, welcome.
Thank you, Larry. Welcome.
Actually, I just feel like we really did record the whole show, and we're starting over again. Tell us a little bit about, and I've been looking through all of the notes that Ken gave me about your professional career and so forth. And I noticed you seem in all your years to emphasize being ER, emergency response, emergency medical, so forth. Tell us about your career and the length of time and what you've been doing.
Well, actually, I was born and raised in a firehouse.
Not about the accident, by the way. We
Oh,
won't
no,
talk
no,
about
no.
it.
Which accident? There's plenty of those. You know, I was born and raised in a firehouse. I was very fortunate and blessed to be raised with such values of, you know, always helping others, which is very much like the Masonic way of life, you know, which is kind of nice. I can put those two pieces together. I attained my emergency medical technician at 16 years old, and that was in 1996. So this year is actually my
16?
Yeah, I was 16.
Wow.
I know.
Is that even
Larry.
legal?
Oh yeah. It's very legal in the state of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Back then, they still use leeches, though.
Wait.
Yes.
I'm doing.
In the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, yes.
Coat hangers.
Easy now, easy.
No, wait, Steve. I was just doing the math. 16 and how old are you?
I'm 30. I would turn 39 this Friday.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah, do the math
that's
quick.
the math
How much?
Oh, I'm not the youngest one here.
Okay.
No.
All right, no.
Not by far.
No, I'm 40, 77.
Really?
Yes.
I've got shoes older than
Steve,
you.
don't let these get you off
It's all
track.
it's all
Stay on target.
19 minutes and 21 seconds. To beep that one.
Stay on target.
It's all the baby fat. That's how I stay looking so young.
Mine's a tanning bed. It's what it is.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it's all natural. So anyway, just being raised in that type of environment, and you know, I knew that I didn't want to do this as my full-time job. Seeing the older generation that I was raised with, how their body ailments, how it took the toll. I mean, when I was first in EMS, we still had the stretchers where it was a person on either side that you had to lift from the ground up into the ambulance. And, you know, honestly, that took a serious toll on your body, you know, however you want to look at it. And even the burnout rates, you know, just seeing how much has changed and how I was fortunate enough and blessed enough to see all that stuff. So I was able to kind of pay that forward. So I did different things in different types of businesses, working with creating businesses. I love to develop things, take a new project, see it come to fruition, plant that seed, if you will, water it, and then move on from that there. With being an emergency medical technician, I'm a nationally registered emergency medical technician, and also a nationally registered instructor, an MC instructor, and the list goes on and on of different alphabet characters behind your names and what you can and can't do. It's been a wild ride. It's been a lot of fun to go from 1 minute of helping to assist a mother and deliver her child to the next minute you're helping somebody talk them off, jumping off the bridge, if you will, or saving that life or that young person. I can say that has not come at a free cost to a lot of body parts in terms of your knees, my shoulders, my back. I mean, those type of different things. However, at the same point, it was worth it. It very much was, and it still is to this day. By all means, I don't get to do it as much as I want to. I still do instruct and teach and help out other people around the areas and whatnot, but not as much as I would love to do, unfortunately.
You've done a lot of actual teaching for schools
Yes.
in the past few years. I'd say, the past 9 or 10 years.
Actually, the past
You've been-
16 years, I believe it is, since 2003.
Been with York Tech, you've been with Berks.
Yes.
So you've really spent some time with both these institutions.
Hack as well, yes, yep.
Yeah.
And that's been fun. I mean, and I can say that everybody's laughing.
Because Larry's just staring at you like, yeah. Like
Yeah, I know.
making you run the interview.
I'm
Keep
thankful.
talking. Don't make me ask questions. Yeah.
Larry looks like
You know,
he looks like a doctor.
Here's
he wants to hear.
Here's the thing. If I don't let you talk, they're on me.
I'm gonna.
Oh my God!
You know-
There's no win for Larry
Hey,
here.
he's serious.
There's no win for Larry.
No win. If I ask too many questions, I'm stealing.
I just turned him off.
You turn me off. Yeah,
Thank God.
I hear that. It just gets no damn breaks around here. Sorry, Steve.
You're good. You're good.
So, Steve, this is usually where I jump in and rescue the interview.
Larry, let the guest talk. No, you're doing great, Larry.
good.
Larry, I'm with you, buddy.
When did you first meet up with the Masons? When did you first think that you wanted to become a Mason?
Honestly, I didn't know I did want to become a Mason. I was born and raised Roman Catholic, still practice that faith very, very closely. It was actually Brother Tim Brown. For those that know Brother Tim, Brother Clyde Brown. Do you know Brother Tim?
Clyde or Tim?
Yeah, Clyde.
You're
well, his
delirious.
nickname is Tim, but his real name is Clyde Brown Jr.
And there's another straight Clyde Brown as well. There's two of them.
There's two.
One goes by Tim. One goes by Clyde.
Are these
Yeah.
Lancaster guys?
Yeah.
Both 43
What
guys.
do you mean by straight?
Yeah.
Okay, because I know
Tim
Clyde Brown
just,
in Ephrata, so.
No, Tim.
But he's not a Mason,
Tim Brown.
to my knowledge.
If it's any consolation, a shout out to him. His EMT number,
You go, Tim.
if you're ready for this, is 000358. That's how long he's been a practitioner in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. As a matter of fact, I just did a standby with him this past Friday. And I put my ballistic vest on. He's like, do I really got to wear a ballistic vest? I said, listen, man. I said, you do what you want to do. And I'm okay with that. I said, but where we're going to be is 5 blocks from where the guy just got shot and killed at the Manheim Police Township Department. So I'll just
That's
take my
house.
chances with.
I'm 5 blocks away from
Yeah,
that.
exactly. I'm like, I'll take my chances with the ballistic vest and I'll be okay. So he did, and we both did it. And he's like, my God, I'm getting old. Well, you know what? He just turned 81 this past January. And for him to still go as strong as he goes is amazing, honestly. But to get back to Larry's point of that, who got me interested in the Masons was Brother Tim. He was my mentor. He taught my EMT class right when I was 15 years old. And I remember him used to throw erasers at me because I'd always fall asleep in his Saturday morning classes. Sometimes it was just really boring. But he mentored me and got me through things, which was great. And that's who got me involved in that perspective, and who also taught me how to be a teacher, an educator, if you will, and how to be able to give it back and pay it back forward. And just one day we're on the back deck where often you'll find Brother Hudson sleeping with my dogs, just kind of talking to me about it and what it meant to be a Mason and the values and the virtues that we all possess together. So that's how I got involved. If that helps answer your question, Larry, and what you were intriguingly asking for.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned, one of the things we're going to try and do on the show is not just bore people with Masonic resumes, because
Right.
there's no shortage of guys that are in everything. We just decided that, hey, we're going to try and find some interesting men who are Masons.
Okay.
So now we're going to get into the good questions.
Absolutely, I can't wait. And my God, Larry, your face just said 1,000. Painted a whole. That was a whole different picture of what you just painted there with your facial reactions. And he's like, "What am I supposed to ask? I don't know. That's not the resume."
Okay, so when Larry finally collapses down here in my basement,
What would I do?
what's the first thing?
First thing,
Annie,
I would
are you
stand back.
okay? Like-
I would stand back and say, "God, go with him," and somebody give him one last drink to help the pain.
Walk into the light.
Go and run.
Run to the light.
Run and don't stop, brother. You're good, and we're all here praying for you and wishing you on.
I won't go out easily. I have a thing in my chest that'll shock
Oh, you too. So do I. It's
you
right
too.
here.
There you go.
Yeah, I have this wonderful magnet, and you can tell that's not. It's just aluminum. I shock myself a lot every day of the week.
So tell us some of the interesting. You said you blew out your shoulder. You have a lot of body parts missing.
I do. Yes. Well, my back was in 2007 or 2007. In a house fire, extracting a patient out with my provider, and he lost balance of what we were carrying out with, and I caught the patient's rather large body mass, unfortunately, and at that point, I herniated L4 and L5. At that point, I was still heavy as well, so I don't take that offensively to anybody by far out there, because as I was saying to Pete when I walked in, I used to be 407 pounds, and I'm 189, so I'm very thankful and blessed to have what I have.
Wait. What?
Where were you with the whole bypass?
400?
We were upstairs in the
What?
kitchen.
Yeah, I was 407 pounds.
Holy hell.
And Brother Kennan can tell you, I was a 50.
looks like a-
Those of you who are watching on the internet,
I'll try and draw a diagram.
this is like a stick figure with spiky hair.
He's like a.
I'm 6'4" and I was 407 pounds.
He's
Holy
like,
hell.
And still produced a child.
he looks
Pure luck, right? It was, right?
he looks like a better looking Anthony Bourdain.
Wow.
I don't know if it was in the Marriott,
Okay,
the
Larry, you're
hotel.
cut off.
GQ.
You're
GQ.
cut off. You're cut off.
Larry, you said earlier like a tall Guy Fieri.
Didn't say that. Tall Guy Fieri. No, nobody can look like Guy Fieri.
Oh my God. Anyway, so that's astounding. Congratulations.
So obviously,
Thank you.
So you're missing part of your stomach. You're some part. bowel.
Actually, my original stomach's still there. They gave me a new stomach.
What do you do with that now? You just store things there, like.
Actually, it's a living organ, so if anything would ever, God forbid, happen, same as Brother Ken, if anything would ever, God forbid, happen, they can still reattach and hook up my old stomach. That's why I chose that procedure. Whereas the sleeve, they literally, as grotesque as it may sound, they literally cut it out and they just toss it in a brown red box there beside the surgery table, and off you go. And what you have is what you have.
So
I don't even know what the hell the question was. Where were we even at?
it really doesn't matter.
I don't.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
doesn't
know.
matter.
let's say I take a quick break. And
What? No way.
We'll be back. And welcome back. We're going to try and get back on track here. Is a more serious question. So, with all these horrible things that you see, how do you have a technique, or what have you done to kind of block it out? Because you had mentioned you weren't there, but your wife worked in the hospital after that horrible Amish school shooting and deal with that.
Yes.
So, when you have horrible things like that, how are you? What's going through your mind?
There's a plethora of things going on through your mind at one time. You know, you have your situational awareness where you are, what's going on, what's happening. How we deal with it afterwards is a whole different part of this, because during any of the classes that were taught, even from when I was taught in 95 up, we were never really taught how to be humans. We were kind of taught to be machines. Everybody's a number and you move on. Everybody's a number and you move on. Many a times I've been in mass casualty incidents, triage incidents, where you literally are picking who's going to live and who's not, unfortunately. And we're using a tagging system. Red mean just move on and, go down to the color list. And that in and of itself is, in the moment, it's not bad. It's at the end of your shift or a day later that it really starts to bother you or screw you up in your mind. How do you take care of yourself? Earlier you had asked what was the best call I ever had per se was a childbirthing. And then the worst part of it is when somebody takes their life or having to sit with a family and explain to that family, we did do everything we possibly could. Hands down. There's no about that. But having that empathy and that compassion to hold your hand. And what I have always taught in all of my classes was, yes, there are cultural differences. Yes, there's things that we have to be very attentive to and very appreciative to. At the same point, we're all human. And if it means you shed a tear with that family, then shed a tear. Compose yourself, but at least show them that you're human as well. You're not some diabolic machine. And that makes a huge difference to patients. Many hospice patients, and Ken can verify some of the things I've on scenes of people who are taking their last breaths. If that's what we're doing in our values of who we are, whether it be through religious values or Masonic values, whatever the case of it is, we're doing the right thing. And we are there for that person at that right time. In reference to the nickel mine shootings, I have some friends that didn't recover from that at all, that had and still have a very rough life that they're going through, that have tried to self-mechanism or self-cope. And self-coping doesn't work all that well. As much as we try to trick our brain that it does go that well, or, oh, it's not going to happen to me, or oh, I'm fine. We carry so many stresses in our lives that we just do not admit because we don't want to admit any kind of failure. We don't want to admit any kind of problems. Everything's fine. Everything's good. And unfortunately, until you come to recognize that, what do you have in place to take care of yourself? When my wife came home from work, she was on the receiving end of a couple of those patients, unfortunately, and they weren't the best case scenarios, unfortunately. And it was rough. It's rough for anybody. And what do? You know, for us, we find peace and resilience. We find peace in just walking the beach or just holding each other.
Yeah, that's
or talking to each other.
One of the first questions I ask when somebody who's a friend has a family crisis, somebody's sick, somebody's dying, something like that, is who's taking care of you?
Correct.
And that's a question nobody bothers to stop and ask, and it's so important.
It's overlooked so many times. It's because it's assumed, and everybody knows assumed, as any courtroom will say, make an ass out of you and me. But no, I mean, what is it? How do we take care of ourselves? People don't, you know, for me, this may sound kind of really weird, but I take care of our backyard. My wife, because she doesn't do it, and brother Ken sees it every year, faithfully as he's snoring on the deck for hours.
Do you have a hard time? After college, I worked at Chester County 911 for a few years, and
Yes,
then played cop for a hot minute.
a hot minute,
Just
a
a
hot
hot
mess or a hot minute.
Yes.
Oh
And,
my! I gotta hear this.
But at the time, just at the time, like it was hard for me to associate and deal with normal people.
Yes.
I found that I was talking. I could only really relax around firefighters, nurses, police officers, dispatchers.
So your culture,
Yeah, and
where you went into your culture of people.
well, because like you get so used to seeing horrible things or hearing horrible things.
Oh gosh, yes.
That when you hear somebody stress out over an exam, you hear somebody stress out over something that to you is not
minute.
is not a big deal. And I just, so do you have have you gotten better at dealing with normal people?
Oh my gosh, yes. One thing I always fall back to, and this is even prior to Masonry, was my faith. It's whatever works for you.
Right.
That's going to help you. Some people go to the gym and work out, and they vent and they relieve all their stresses working out.
So what would you tell some, like if there's young brothers listening that are looking to get into the emergency services?
Get your life together before you even try.
Okay.
Wow.
Seriously, get your life together.
That's large.
Don't even attempt to go out there and put a Band-Aid over a severing artery using that analogy with your own life. Get your life together. Don't even attempt it. Whether you're a police officer, a fireman, an EMT, a hazmat responder, you are surely not going to be able to help anybody else, let alone yourself.
Wow.
Get your life together.
So kind of like the oxygen mask just dropped from the ceiling. Put your own on
Everybody's
first.
faces here just got like, oh.
Put yours
You wanna
on
be-
first.
Where's he going with this?
You can be real, which is fine. And this is where I've always been very successful in my teaching. I would always tell every single one, whether it was in an industrial manufacturing company I was talking with or teaching for, or a college or a class or whatever, I would always tell them, you have nobody else to blame but yourself. Life is 100% about choices. 100%. And if you choose not to make your mark in life, so bad, so sad. Don't tell me your problems until you get your life together. Get your shit together, then come talk to me. And when you're ready for help, I will be the first person to help guide you down in any which way. But I say to them, people, it's like, you know what? Be realistic. Life is way too short. It is way too short. Either make your mark in life on who you want to be, what you want to be, and more importantly, what can you give back to your fellow person? Don't become a problem, be a solution.
I think that's a big part of what we're taught in the work is give back.
And we're told to give back. Otherwise, the Masons wouldn't sponsor the things they do. They wouldn't support the programs they're involved in.
Yeah.
Well,
Honestly.
I thought we're only taught what you put into it, you get back, or whatever it was.
You know, and that's the old adage. And that's the worst thing to tell people.
That is absolutely the worst thing to tell people because,
Really?
you know,
I agree with you.
you're right
Elvis.
because if I don't put anything into it, I won't get anything out of it. Value for value. Done.
That's why we have
nothing.
90% of our members that don't come to a meeting.
Yeah, and everybody hears that when they're made Masons, but and I just listened and what was I listening to?
Yeah, it was on somebody's show.
It was
Roundtable or Whence Came You?
no, it was Whence Came You, and he was talking about that exact thing. You get out of it what you put into it. Turn that around. You're going to get out of it what you put in it. Put in it. If you don't put in it, this is a complete waste of your time. Put in it. Expect yourself to put in it. We hold you accountable to put in it. And that's what it's not. You'll get out of it whatever you passively put into it. This
This is
nothing.
why Jack is known as the straight guy. On
Yeah,
the
that's
show.
why I'm the
Well, no, and that's okay. Straight Nate, I get it. Straight Nate, sorry. Too much Elvis Duran in the morning.
Got it.
For those listening to Elvis Duran in the morning, you understand what I'm saying. Straight Nate. You're 100% correct because honestly, I have always loved teaching post-secondary adults. There have been many adults, or some of them are actually brothers that are probably listening to the show, so I won't call you out by far. That are there. The nighttime classes, they are there. They are working parents, they're working providers. They got multiple children. They're trying to go to school 5 hours a night, and they give a shit. They want to be there. They're paying out of pocket to make us happen. The morning classes, well, it's a different story. That was always like, oh, God, here we go. I used to hate morning classes. So I always took the afternoon and evening class because I was like, oh, please, give me the ones that want to be there.
There's a ton of stuff in what we're talking about tonight.
There's one of those.
this is deep.
We have to pick our battles as Freemasons.
yes.
But one of my pet peeves, especially with Blue Lodge, I really think our number one job at Blue Lodge is to take care of Blue Lodge members.
Absolutely.
So I would ask for you men that are listening, if there are veterans, public service guys, anybody that is having a problem, or even if they're not showing they have a problem, just stay involved, stay in contact with the men in your lodge, because there's some of those guys that are having a hard time and just not saying it.
And they're not ever going to say it because it would be counter to their own
Beliefs.
selves to say that they have a problem. And let's
Go ahead. Yeah,
nah,
finish your thought.
that's it. I mean,
No.
we could say the same thing.
I would say that on a closing note, throughout the country, Freemasonry is celebrating first responders.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We celebrate in our lodge. I don't remember what month it is.
November.
But I think if you listen to this show tonight, you're going to have a greater appreciation for the work that first responders do because Steve has really put a really personal touch on it. And for that, I thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you for, putting that kind of a touch on it and giving us a better understanding than I think we've ever had when we go into a lodge meeting and we say thank you to these guys.
and-
we don't know what they
And
do.
I think, maybe some of the listeners who don't work around emergency services, they're going to hear the part of our show where we're laughing and being silly. But there's definitely like a gallows type humor for the people that are involved in that line of work.
They have to be.
Unfortunately, there is.
You party hard because you're dealing with a lot of things, and
Yes.
you overcompensate by being a goofball.
Right.
Too vulgar, too overbearing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
So depending on how Jason edits it,
Yeah, God
don't
bless
ever
Jason.
think that we're making light of anything. It's completely a serious topic, and we're we're just trying our best to shed some light on it.
Yeah, and we're glad we had you come and visit with us tonight.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Straight Nate.
In spite of
All right, let's take a
in
quick
spite
break.
of our ridiculousness.
Let's take a break, and we'll come back with some more show.
news, everyone!
Masonic Light News. News not fit to print.
In Masonic news today, the internet announced a new Masonic dating system. It seems for years Masons have found dating extremely complicated and sought an easier system of interacting within a consistent framework. No longer will Masons be restricted to dating the ladies of Eastern Star.
Whoa, what? Whoa. Wait, come on. Come on.
Jack, I think
Wait, what?
I think they're referring to calendars and like making sure like you're going to the right meetings on the right nights.
Like BC,
I hope so.
AD.
Oh, never mind. That's the Masonic news. So mote it was.
And we're back. We had I think everybody, we had a great episode today. I have no idea how much of it we're going to be able to use,
My head hurts.
but we covered a lot of funny stuff and a lot of very serious stuff. So,
Is he quacking?
Larry's quacking.
He's 100.
what do we have? Jason. Jason, what do you have going on next couple weeks Masonically?
Tomorrow, I will be at the Lancaster Lodge Perfection of the Scottish Rite, getting installed as senior warden in the Lodge Perfection. We have an extra meeting, Lodge 43, next week. And I think that's the... Oh, and then the big news would be the Valley of Harrisburg reunion, Friday night and all day Saturday. When you hear this, it would have already happened, but reunion is coming up. And then I think it finally starts to quiet down. Our chapter, Jack will probably talk about it. We're sending a gentleman down to Philadelphia, and I guess it's council and chapter here locally as well.
Chapter meeting this Thursday.
Yeah.
You'll have missed it already.
Yep. But that's all I got.
Jack, what do you have going on?
Chapter on Thursday.
Don't forget breakfast Thursday.
Can't make breakfast Thursday.
What?
No, traveling with a vendor from Canada.
Canada.
Canada, eh?
Oh,
So that's it. Really, we're gearing up. We just put up a Eventbrite for our cave degree that'll be happening in September. So
That's shared on our Facebook page for Masonic Light Podcast.
if you go on Eventbrite or our Masonic Light Podcast Facebook page, you can find that. That's held at Penn's Cave in Hummelstown. It's a very cool dinner. There's a limited number of tickets, so if you want to come early or buy your ticket early.
And before political correctness, that was for years. It was called Indian Echo Caverns.
Indian Echo Cavern, correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, it's not in Indian Echo anymore?
It's Penn's Cave.
It's actually what is it? Echo Dell, whatever that means. Indian Echo Caverns. Anyway, go on the Facebook page and look for. I can't concentrate.
You'll see
people
it.
Are talking.
You'll see the cave degree.
Years. Cave degree. Search cave degree, 2018.
Cave
get you there.
degree.
Cave degree.
Am I right? See, it's a pun, rock pun. Ken, do you have anything going on the next couple weeks?
Hope to get some rest because the last 2 weeks Masonically have wore me out, but I'm going to make all the Scottish Rite things and of course anything the Blue Lodge is doing.
Larry, do you have any? You have nothing going on, right? Because you just go to breakfast.
Actually, guys, I'm on vacation next week for 2 weeks. I will be back by the time the show airs.
Where are you going?
New Hampshire and Maine.
Good for you. Enjoy some
Winnipesaukee?
lobster.
Yes, Winnipesaukee, yes.
Do you need directions?
Love
Go to New
Winnipesaukee.
Jersey and make a left.
Okay.
All right.
Bring
My
lobster.
advice, use GPS.
What do you got, Pete?
Wednesday, I am Dim. I am
Yes, we know.
I am the Deputy Illustrious Master of Goodwin Council number 19.
Congratulations.
I am a member of Royal Arch Chapter number 43, but
We should attend sometime.
I should go one of these days.
You were just giving me crap about not making it to council.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What am I?
Jason,
never mind.
Jealousy's an ugly word.
This weekend, all weekend this weekend is the conclave for the Grand Encampment of Pennsylvania. So anybody that is in the Knights Templar It's a thrill a minute. Let me tell you.
I would love. That really is one part of getting involved in the Masons is the Knight Templar, just because of the base of the history.
It is cool.
Fortunately for me, it is my birthday weekend, and my beautiful 8-year-old daughter and my lovely wife are taking me to the beach for the weekend.
Oh, very good.
So I will think about you while I'm walking down the sands.
But I'll be up there on Saturday hawking my wares.
While you're hawking there, I'll be walking.
I'll be selling scarves. And also, look at our Facebook page because I did post something. Ubar Grotto. We're having our May meeting in June.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do.
We have our November meeting in December, too.
So yeah, and it is a Master Mason night. So if anybody wants to come out to Dave Steffi's Neverland Ranch.
Special thanks to our guest. What the hell is his name again?
Steve Henry Jr.
Steve Henry.
I'm going to go get attacked by the dog.
Dear God.
And to our producer, Jason Lewis, who always makes a great show.
Jason's great.
Out of chaos. Our news director, Jack Harley. Thank you, Jack, for a great
Straight
report.
Nate, thank you.
Sorry you got the dating thing confused. To Monarch Studios and to Brother Pete Majiri for allowing us to meet here and record this show. That's all I have to say. Thanks for listening. This is Larry.
This is Pete. Yeah.
It's Jason.
It's
And
Steve
Jack.
and Straight Nate.
And
Jack.
And
Straight
Ken,
Nate.
give us a goodbye.
I'm donating $50 to the podcast for their new location.
Whoa!
That is a challenge.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Just so everybody knows, that's my Uber money.
That'll buy a nail.
So really, it's coming from me.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good
Be
night.
safe.